This week began with an unexpected turn in French politics when Marine Le Pen's far-right party failed to get the majority and actually came third in the legislative election voting that happened on Sunday. The left-wing New Popular Front got the largest share of votes, followed by Macron's centrist alliance, and then Marine Le Pen's right-wing party at third position. Yet, no party won an outright majority, pushing France for a hung assembly. The new parliamentary session will start from the 18th of July. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Gabriel Attal has offered his resignation, but Macron has asked him to remain temporarily as head of the government. NATO leaders met to celebrate the alliance's 75th anniversary under the cloud of deep political uncertainty in its most powerful member, the United States. In this three-day summit, all the focus was on the alliance's support for Ukraine to counter Russia in the ongoing war. The allies affirmed that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to NATO membership and pledged to maintain a baseline of roughly $43 billion along with air defense support, including Patriot missile systems and F-16 fighter jets. They also called out China for being a salient supporter of Putin in this war. Boeing has agreed to plead guilty to criminal fraud conspiracy charges brought by the federal government for its role in the two fatal 737 MAX 8 jet crashes that happened off the coast of Indonesia in 2018 and in Ethiopia in 2019, killing a total of 346 people. Boeing has been ordered to pay a fine of $243.6 million. It is also committed to allocating more than $450 million over the next 3 years towards the implementation of compliance and safety initiatives. Meanwhile, Boeing Starliner mission with Sunita Williams on board is still stuck in outer space. The team was supposed to return last week, but due to thruster malfunctions and helium leaks, it is still stranded in outer space, which again does not look good for Boeing. The United Kingdom's newly elected Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has sparked controversy with his statement on the Rwanda bill. Starmer has confirmed the Rwanda deportation scheme is dead and buried and said he would end the gimmick of deporting migrants arriving in the United Kingdom illegally to Rwanda, which was established by the previous Conservative government. An unexpected move by the Labour leader, on which the Rwanda government has said they will not return the already allotted £310 billion. What will happen to the fate of the thousands of illegal immigrants in the United Kingdom is yet to be decided. South Korea's largest electronic giant Samsung, which adds nearly 22% to the country's GDP, is now facing an indefinite hunger strike from its employees. The National Samsung Electronics Union, or NSEU, has been on strike on the demands for a salary increase, better working conditions, increase in days off and compensation benefits. The NSEU also demands fairness and transparency in the promotion system in the company. Despite rounds of talks earlier this year, the union's demands for increased wages and better working conditions have not been met. Hello. You're with me on Global Compass, the weekly show that updates you on all that has been happening around the world. In our next segment, let's take a look at some of the stories that were specifically featured on Strat News Global. On his first Eurasia tour after being elected Prime Minister for the third time, Narendra Modi met Russian President Vladimir Putin and Austrian President Alexander van der Bellen to strengthen bilateral ties. Amidst the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, Prime Minister Modi reiterated to President Putin that problems cannot be solved on the battlefield. During Modi's two-day visit to Russia, New Delhi and Moscow signed 9 MOUs and agreements in several sectors, including trade, climate and research. Moreover, India and Russia agreed to increase bilateral trade to $100 billion by 2030. In the Austria tour, the two heads signed trade and investment deals, and Modi announced that an agreement had been reached to facilitate the legal migration of skilled workers. A Japanese Navy destroyer made an unusual entry into China's territorial waters near Taiwan earlier this month. The incident occurred without prior notification to China, leading to serious concerns from Beijing, according to Japanese media reports. The Japan Maritime Self-Defense Forces destroyer Suzutsuki entered China's waters of Zhejiang province on the 4th of July. This area is designated by China for its naval drills. The vessel sailed within 12 nautical miles or 22 kilometers off the Zhejiang coast for approximately 20 minutes despite receiving warnings from Chinese vessels. Beijing subsequently expressed serious concerns to Tokyo about the incident. Bangladesh was inducted as the fifth member of the Colombo Security Conclave at the 8th meeting of Deputy National Security Advisors hosted virtually by Mauritius on Wednesday. The Seychelles participated as an observer state. According to a Ministry for External Affairs release, quote, member states reviewed the decisions taken at the 7th DNSA level meeting hosted virtually by Maldives on the 12th of July 2023, the 6th NSA level meeting hosted by Mauritius on 7th and 8th December 2023, and the progress of activities under the roadmap of activities for 2023-24 of the CSC. Member states agreed that the 7th NSA level meeting of the CSC will be held in India later this year. Unquote. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has urged representatives of BIMSTEC member countries to show determination in infusing new energies, new resources, and a new commitment for cooperation. For India, BIMSTEC or Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation represents the intersection of the Neighbourhood First outlook, the Act East policy, and the Sagar vision. BIMSTEC is a regional organization that connects countries around the Bay of Bengal to promote economic growth, trade, and cooperation in areas like transportation, energy, and counter-terrorism. Prime Minister Modi has congratulated the newly elected President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian. On his X account, the Prime Minister also said he is looking forward to strengthening the bilateral ties between the two countries. A seasoned lawmaker and cardiac surgeon, Moderate Pezeshkian has pledged to open Iran to the world. And taking this story forward, Iran has elected a moderate candidate with the hope of liberalizing the economy, fighting rising inflation, and countering heavy Western sanctions. Notably, throughout his campaign, Pezeshkian was very vocal about easing out the state influence in terms of mandatory hijab for women. But will his moderate approach work in favor of women of the country is something to wonder about. To discuss how Pezeshkian will be for the women of Iran and the future direction of Iran's political landscape, I spoke to Dr. Deepika Saraswat, an Associate Fellow at the West Asia Center at the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, or IDSA. Dr. Saraswat has published her book titled Between Survival and Status, the Counter-Hegemonic Geopolitics of Iran. Watch this excerpt from this interview. So ever since the new president of Iran was elected, not just the Iranian society, but the entire international community has been intrigued because he has positioned himself as a reformist. What do you think will be the future direction now of Iran's politics with the election of Pezeshkian?
Okay, thanks for asking this very layered question in the beginning itself. So let me start by saying that this snap presidential election and the approval of a reformist candidate by the Guardian Council, the fact that in 2021 election there was no prominent reformist face and the reformists, as a political faction, they had not really very actively participated in the election. So in this snap election, when reformists, a five-time parliamentarian like Masoud Pezeshkian, he is given the go ahead to run. So we see the moderates and the reformists galvanized, they mobilized around him. And the idea, of course, for the establishment was that by bringing reformists back into the race in the political arena, they'll be able to garner, they'll be able to attract the gray voters, the people who usually don't come out to vote, and they are likely to come out to vote when there is a reformist in the fray. So the interesting bit is that in the first uh, round, where the turnout was 40%. So clearly, there was not much of a change in terms of the gray voters really coming out to vote. But in the second round, and I think that's really interesting, where the turnout increased by 10%, and the people came out to vote, a certain section which had not voted in the previous round. Basically, it is being widely seen as a no to the kind of more radical position or radical continuation that the hardliner candidate Saeed Jalili was offering. So yes, it is, if you the majority of analysts, Iranian analysts, are looking at it as a no vote to radicalism.
We are talking about a country where, as you said, 80 to 85% of women are literate, are educated, but in the workforce, there's only about 13 to 14% of women. We are talking about a society where in 2022, Mahsa Amini was arrested for not wanting to wear the hijab and she died under mysterious circumstances. We are talking about a country where a lawyer, his name is Mohsen Burhani, he had spoken out against the manner in which the 2022 protests were handled, and he was arrested a day after Pezeshkian came to power. So that is the reason for my cynicism and my asking you, has anything actually changed for women or will anything change for women? Of course, you talked about his daughter, but on the ground, in reality, for the common women, do you think anything will change at all?
Okay, let me, in all fairness, Iran is a very interesting case in the sense the Western media tends to have a very securitized view of it, as if Iran is the only country, but it's a society in transition, and the challenges that are happening there. Uh, of course, even the establishment takes a very securitized view of things, given the hostility it has faced from the West, and how these issues are amplified a lot. I mean, and they are used to weaponize. I mean, they are weaponized by the Western, actors to sort of portray Iran as a particularly, uh, you know, particularly anti-women or something like that. I think we need to have a more nuanced view of that. Just let me just say that Iranian women, they do not need, Western support, and the Western, because that Western support is also very vested in nature. They are driven by their, rather cynical calculation. But the Iranian women's movement, I think there is it's been there since the early 2000s. So what I'm saying is that in Iran, the women have been part of the, uh, the social political milieu. They've been there. They've been present as actors. So of course, their aspirations, they feel suffocated in the current system, but they are relentless, and that's why we see that the reformists will try and sort of co-opt them to some certain extent. But I think there is also a sense at this, among the women movement in Iran, that reformists have also proved ineffective. I mean Khatami's presidency in the early 2000s, it raised expectations, ballooned expectations, and there were certain changes, like chador, which used to be like heavily, was like a fixture of siyasa. They are called black, they all the black heads. So they that was relaxed, and then their expectations have just increased, and that's rightly so. And so what I'm saying is that Iranian women, they should be seen as actors, and they are pressing on their demands. So now it's the system has to acknowledge them, and the reformists, in my opinion, they are better placed to sort of act as a kind of a bridge between the two extremes. women who do see, again, in Iran, the protest is not against hijab. It's not anti-hijab, by the way. Oftentimes it's seen as anti-hijab. It's not anti-hijab. It's anti-mandatory hijab,
Yes,
where
exactly.
they do not,
It's about
they want
choice.
to have, yeah, they want to have a personal choice. So it's not like
Yes.
Iranian women just do not want to wear hijab, but they do not want the state to tell them. So I think the
Mm.
reformists, I will not write them off. They would try to have a more public debate on the issue of legislation like hijab law, which the predecessors, conservative hardliners, they were probably just using their majority in the parliament to push it through. But here, I think there is an opportunity to have a more public debate, a more wider sort of uh, discussion about these issues.
You can watch the entire interview on Strat News Global on Tuesday. I do hope you have subscribed to this channel, gotten your friends and family who are interested in foreign affairs to do it. I do hope you will like and share this show as well. And with that, it's time to wrap up this week's Global Compass. But before we let you go, here is a glimpse of the famous can-can dancers of the most celebrated cabaret club in Paris, Moulin Rouge, as the newly installed sails of the Red Windmill were lit up atop the club. They dazzled spectators in Paris with their high-energy lifts and splits. Take a look. I will see you next week. Till then, take care.